Evening. Today is Tuesday, October 19th, 2021, and this is the regular meeting of the Greenberg Central School District Board of Education. I'm going to call the meeting to order. The time is now 6:31 p.m. I'm asked that everyone stand to do the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. At this point, I'm going to need a motion to adjourn to executive session, please.
I make a motion that we adjourn to executive session.
Second.
I just need the content here under admin content under number 3, because we need to state the reason for going into exec session.
I move that we adjourn to executive session to discuss the employment history of particular persons being considered for board action this evening and at a future meeting.
Second.
Great, it's been properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carried. We're now in executive session. Thank you. from the public. And it looks like I have one public speaker, Lorraine Cantori. I'm not sure where the mic is. Oh, it's up there. Good evening. I can't hear. Steve, is her mic on? Oh, she has to turn it on?
Good evening to the board. Dr. Iverson, welcome. My name's Lorraine Cantori. I've been a resident of Hartsdale for 29 years. And I have a concern. I would like to know what the status is on the mansion, what's happening with the roof. Is there anything going on with the mansion at this time? And I have one more question. Have we seen an increase in enrollment since last spring? And if so, what is that magic number? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cantori. I see Dr. Iverson is writing down your questions, and
I'll get
you
it.
will get back to her.
Yes, I will get back to you with a response.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to continue to move through the agenda. The next section on our agenda are B, presentations and reports, and we have B1, board recognition.
So, good evening. This week is School Board Recognition Week. The New York State Department and School Board Association sponsors School Board Recognition Week to recognize school board members for their commitment to New York City public children. School Board Recognition Week is an opportunity to raise community awareness and understanding about the crucial role school board members have within a school district. School board members take on a tremendous responsibility. It's an important responsibility, overseeing the education of the children and the community and the youth, and guiding the local school district and ensuring that public schools are flexible and responsive to the needs of the community. School boards are compiled of volunteers, most of whom do not receive any compensation for their service. They are individuals within the community who dedicate their time to improving public education. It is tonight that we honor and recognize our Board of Trustees for their commitment and service to the Greenburgh Central School District and the Greenburgh community. I will now call our Board of Trustee members one by one, and will be assisted by our board clerk, and each member will receive a certificate of service and appreciation for your dedication to the system and Greenburgh community. Thank you, and can everyone join me in honoring our Board of Trustees?
Thank you so much, Dr. Iverson.
You're welcome. We will then begin with Trustee President Tracy Mayers.
Thank you so much. I just want to let my fellow trustees know that we do have masks at the table, so if you want to put on a falcon mask, if I don't know if anyone's taking any photos, but just for appearance, so we all have the same mask on, or even put a falcon mask over the mask that you already have.
There will be a group picture right after.
Okay, awesome.
Trustee Tanya Dragic, Vice President, Board of Trustee Chris Vallon. Trustee Jamal Thomas. Trustee David Warner. Trustee Ashley Pineda. And Trustee Kiana Washington. Thank you again for your commitment and service to the Greenburgh community and the Greenburgh Central School District. It's my pleasure working with you. We will now have you assemble in front of the tables for a group picture.
Thank you, Dr. Iverson. Thank you, Dr. Iverson. So we're going to move on in our agenda to section B2, which is policy presentation. And the Board of Education Code of Ethics is still there. We have one new policy to be considered for board adoption at the November 16th, 2021 meeting concerning the board's Code of Ethics. Copies of this policy will be available in the district clerk's office and on our website. All comments concerning this policy should be submitted in writing to the Board of Education. So for the public, please see the Board of Education Code of Ethics. We will be considering this on November 16th. Okay, I'm going to move forward. I don't see any comments from any other trustees. The next item on our agenda is the board president's report. And so I just did want to take a moment to talk about a couple of things. Oh, sorry. Oh, thank you, Jamal. The next section is B3. We're not jumping to 4. B3, committee reports. Are there any committee reports this week from the Board of Education? I see you, Trustee Georgia.
Okay, can everyone hear me? Okay. So the Education and Wellness Committee had its first meeting on October 6th. It was a meeting via Zoom, and the recording of that meeting is available on our YouTube channel, so I urge the community to take a look. The meeting started at 6:10, and those who were present were Dr. Linda Iverson. She was our acting administrative liaison. Michael McCoy, he was our district liaison for wellness. Lori DeAndrea and Carlos Ramirez, who presented. Laser alert. Board members present were Tanya Dragic, Kiana Washington, and Jamal Thomas. And I apologize, I was unable to capture all the public participants, and since I don't remember all of them, I just prefer to say that we did have public participants. I was nominated as the chairperson of the committee, and then we moved on to the actual meeting. In the first part of the meeting, I gave a brief presentation about several items. The first was proper communication protocols in the district, reminding the community that queries and concerns should be addressed to the appropriate district personnel before moving up the chain of command. I also presented data from my survey on topics of interest that the community thought the committee should address over the coming school year. And I won't share all of the data. Actually, my data is visible in the presentation, but I just want to say that the topics that garnered the most interest were the IB and AP program, making our data publicly available, special education services in our district, and proficiency assessments. And in terms of wellness topics, the ones that garnered the most interest were the SCL budget, and also how it is used and which wellness programs we actually offer to our students. Then we actually moved to sort of the meat of the presentation, and that was organized by Dr. Iverson. It's a really very thorough presentation about the testing that our children, proficiency testing that our children undergo in the district. So Dr. Iverson gave an introduction about which data a school district needs to follow and why. She talked about the attributes of high-performing districts and how data is analyzed so that instruction can be tweaked, if you wish, to meet the needs of the students. Then Lori DeAndrea presented local assessments. It was a very, very thorough presentation for each assessment that the children undergo. She presented the what, why, and how. So I think if you watch this presentation, you'd be hard-pressed not to understand what your children are being tested on. And she also provided an assessment calendar. Then Dr. Iverson came back and talked a little bit about professional learning communities, which is basically about teachers and administrators coming together to talk about assessments and how to apply them to improving outcomes. Carlos Ramirez then talked to us about New York State assessments, including elementary and intermediate level assessments. Again, he gave a very detailed explanation of what each of those was about. And he also talked about Regents exams. And finally, Dr. Iverson gave concluding remarks that were about working with our teachers to integrate testing results and teaching approaches, as well as how these assessments actually focus the district. Testing data will be presented at a committee meeting at the end of November. And the other things that we discussed at the end of the meeting were just the general topic of looking at the various programs, especially high school programs that we offer, and assessing their effectiveness. And central admin also, Dr. Iverson said, now that she finally has a complete team, welcome Dr. Macaluso, that central admin will be working to determine how testing can be streamlined and whether our assessments may, whether we actually need to add more tests, take some away to better inform our teachers of how to work effectively with our students. At the end of the presentation, Dr. Iverson also briefly addressed SCL programs, and she said that basically there are programs that school districts can buy into. I believe you mentioned one called Second Step, and that can be put in place to help with empathy building and emotional wellness, but our district does not yet have anything like that implemented. And the meeting ended at 8:30 p.m. Thank you.
Wow, that sounds like a lot was done there, Trustee Johnson. That's excellent. Are there any questions from trustees? I see Ms. Washington and then Warner.
You want me to go first? Okay.
Or
So-
Warner, then Washington.
All right, so I was very interested that you went into great depth and detail about each of the measuring tools and how each one works, and that's great and wonderful. The next thing that's going to happen, you have your beginning of year tests, you have your middle of year tests, and you have your end of year tests. And we're coming back from COVID. We did do iReady last year, but we weren't sure how good the data was, so we're trying to set a new, like, post-COVID recess baseline. And what we normally do is we compare end of year versus end of year. So we do like window 3 of iReady this year versus window 3 of iReady last year and see what progress we made. But that doesn't seem to make sense given we don't know what we lost. Could we, for this year, use window 1 and compare it to window 3, come out with some kind of expectation based on how much kids tend to learn over the course of the year, and say, here's a target that we think that by the end of the year we can get here, and just measure ourselves off that. Will that work?
Yes, so what we're just completing is that baseline. What you're speaking of, we did begin over, and this first quarter was for us to establish a whole new baseline of where the children are. Using that data, which will be presented at the end of, as Trustee Drogic said, next month, at the end of the month, will be forming, our teachers will be in the PLCs and looking at how to analyze that data to inform their instruction. And that baseline, yes, will be used to compare MOY to EOY. We can't wait until EOY to look at BOY and EOY because we want to catch children early if they're struggling, so we can put some interventions in place. So that ongoing assessment, that progress monitoring will occur even between the benchmark windows. So it's an ongoing kind of continuous cycle of improvement. But absolutely, we will be looking at the end of the year, that growth. What I will tell you initially, as we are looking at the data, we've just begun to do that. The gap is not as wide as we thought.
Good.
Dr. Macaluso made a comment today as he was looking at some of the early learning that our youngsters did come in with some great phonetic skills. So that's good news, but we are still looking at it deeply. And so there will be a comprehensive presentation around where we are, how we're going to address, what's that gap, what was that loss, and then what we're going to do about it. And we're coming before the board with what that recommendation will be, using the ARP funds that have been designated for us to work with the academic loss. So we're on target, we're in process, and so, but we had to begin. You're right, we left COVID. We did not want COVID to determine where a child was. We all know, everyone experienced that. Wiped the slate clean, and we started over this first quarter.
Thank you.
Okay, first and foremost, I wanted to commend Dr. Iverson because her team came to our committee meeting, and I thought it was a transparent and a very thorough, basically, presentation on our assessments. So I just want to say thank you because you did that prior to Dr. Macaluso coming. So we want to thank you for taking that on, and I truly appreciate it. And I can't wait to continue to see the presentations for the community so we can actually understand what's going on in our schools. I also wanted to commend the PTA, I think, district president. I know her first name is Pamela. I'm not sure her last name. She did advocate for the parents. You said something?
Davis.
Davis.
Pamela Davis, I want to give her recognition. The literacy specialist, what we were talking about, I read parent reports, and there was a comment that was made that said that it might be too hard for the parents. So Pamela Davis, she advocated for parents and said, you tell us, you teach us, you educate us, and we will know and learn what our children are doing in school. So I wanted to commend Pamela Davis and Dr. Macaluso. Just with that information, continue as you're working with the leaders and you're working with your teachers, continue to involve the parents so that we could be a support to the school. So everything that's going on with our students, we can be there. So I just wanted to give that information to you. But thank you, Dr. Iverson, for that presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any other trustees? Mr. Warner?
It's not a report, it's an announcement. The first meeting of the Audit Committee will be this coming Thursday, 10/21. It's a Zoom meeting at 6:30 p.m., and you'll be able to, the general public will be able to look at it via our web link, because we're doing all our committee meetings remote.
Can you say the date again? I'm sorry.
(10/21)
This Thursday.
this Thursday.
And
Mr. Thomas?
The next community engagement meeting and communications meeting will be next week on Monday, the 25th. So we look forward to having the community join us and engage with us there, 7 p.m.
Thank you, Trustee Thomas. Any other committee updates? Yes, Mr. Pineda?
So just an announcement along the same lines, the Safety and Technology Committee will have its first meeting on October 26th at 6 p.m. via Zoom. Also, the Governance and Policy Committee will be having its first meeting on October 27th at 6 p.m. via Zoom. So next week is shaping up to be a busy week. Ivy, I'll
Lot
be
of
sending
committee
you
meetings.
a list of all the dates, et cetera. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and I heard it's going to be posted online, so people can check those dates out. Okay, I see pointing.
Sorry, and I'm just going to, since we're announcing all the committee meetings, David, do you mind if I announce for Trustee Warner that the Finance and Facilities Committee is meeting next Thursday, the 28th,
That's fine with me.
6:30 by Zoom?
So to recap, I have the Audit Committee this Thursday, the 21st. I have the CEC Monday, the 25th. I have Governance on the 27th and Finance and Facilities on the 28th.
And Safety and Technology on the 26th.
Holy cow, okay,
Busy week.
If I may make a
it's a
suggestion,
lot.
that's a lot. So I don't know if someone wants to blink and move.
It's a full week. Yes,
Ashley's
Mr. Pineda?
volunteering.
I'm not volunteering. What I
Oh.
was going to say is that a lot of our committees are still getting their, I guess, still launching for this year. So it's expected in October this may have happened. The hope is that following meetings won't happen, the following months that won't happen as much, and hopefully we space them out a little bit more.
Okay, well, thank you all for your commitment next week. At least it's all virtual, so you can be having the meeting from home at least, or wherever your pleasure. Are there any other updates from trustees regarding committees? No, I will move on. The next item on our agenda is B4, Board President's Report, and I just wanted to talk about a few things. I wanted to inform the public that we did have a board retreat this weekend that just passed. And I thank you trustees for giving up your Saturday morning. I want to thank Dr. Harold Coles, who is the current superintendent of Southern Westchester BOCES. He was our facilitator for the closed portion of the retreat. At that retreat, we discussed our board functioning and our roles. We started to have the beginning conversations for our protocols and really looking at those and breaking those down. But it was recommendation at that point that we need to have another retreat. So just want to make you guys aware of that. Then we went into open session for the last hour where we started to look at our board goals. We had an excellent presentation from Dr. Iverson regarding the feedback that she received from trustees on what our district needs. And that was the beginning conversation on our board goals for the 21-22 school year. And so that's on our website. You can check that out if you'd like to look at the open portion of that retreat. I wanted to also remind parents to continue to talk with your children, continue to be nosy about internet safety. It's very, very, very important. Even very young children, first grade, they have learned, kindergarten, they have learned how to operate on our Chromebooks or our iPads, and they know how to go to different pages. Obviously, older children really know how to navigate the internet way better than many of us parents. And it's important that you know what your children are looking at, what they are exposed to, what they may be exposing, you know, and they may be taking pictures, they may be sharing things with other people. So it's very, very, very important as a parent that you pay attention to what your children are exposed to and seeing online. So I just really want to remind us all of that as well. We definitely need more parent and community involvement in the schools. We have parents in the audience today, which is great. We have a little bit more people than, it's only 4 parents and community, but it's more than we had last meeting, so hopefully there are more people watching online. We need your involvement. With that said, we will continue to try to communicate. We have heard loud and clear that we need to communicate a little bit better, more proactively, and our administrator is very well aware of all concerns as well as suggestions, so we will continue to look at that. We have a newsletter coming out from the district that will have lots of information. That will be very, very soon. I know people are looking for our newsletters. The Board of Education has a special website coming out. We are working with Civic Plus, and so we will have our own board page updated. Hopefully, that picture we just took will come out wonderfully, and we can have that photo on our website. It will also have a space where the community can subscribe to information directly from the Board of Education. Lastly, I want to thank our administration for doing an excellent job with the COVID testing rollout. As many of you are aware, we have engaged in testing our staff. Our staff either have to be vaccinated or have weekly testing, and so the administration did a great job of rolling that out. And most recently, we are offering testing for our students, of course, with parent consent only. And I know you're not on the agenda, Dr. Iverson, but I would love for you to say a little something about that if possible. And that's the conclusion of my statement.
I'm very proud of what we've done with the COVID testing. We did kick it off Monday, and it will be in place through December. So persons who consented, faculty, staff, and students, parents of students, parents consented for students will be tested weekly, starting every Monday. It is a self-administered PCR COVID test that students can take home under the supervision of their parents and have that test administered. They have 2 days to return it. Once we get the testing back from all those who picked up, who have consented, all the testing is sent to the lab, who then generates a report for us, and then we then follow through and can contact any person who came back positive. So it's another layered way of preventing COVID, catching it early. So we're consistently looking at ways to do that, to keep our environment safe and keep our staff and students safe. And so we're going to watch this data very, very closely. We're hoping what this will lead to is us being able to back off some of our strict policies around visitors being in our buildings, because we can now protect our buildings better, and looking to maybe have another layer of prevention there. So this was intended to just start to see if this would help. Our numbers are decreasing. I'm on my calls every month, and right now in the Westchester County, we're watching that level of transmission. As soon as it hits moderate, we'll be able to, as all superintendents, reconvene our reopening plan and look at adjusting some of those strategies we have in place in terms of allowing more visitors in our buildings and on campus who are vaccinated. So it will be another layer we're looking to move to. So I'm excited about that, as well as there's an opportunity for us to start and volunteer for on-site pop-up labs to do COVID testing. So this thing is growing and is continuing. We're consistently looking and talking about other ways we can up the game to protect our students and our environment by layering on more and more prevention strategies. So I'm asking the public to bear with us. I know it's not ideal, and that is very restrictive still, but our cases are dwindling. And so that is the point we're making here. We will be opening our doors shortly as soon as we can get a handle on how this testing is impacting our numbers, and as well as watching the numbers in our community and that transmission level. So we have had, so far we have 102 staff members, students, who have consented, families who have consented to this weekly testing. Parents can opt in at any moment. It's voluntary. If you have not consented, you can still do that. And as well as you can opt out at any time. We've had 289 staff now and on our building and in our schools who are fully vaccinated. So those who are not are part of this mandatory testing every week. So we're encouraging more of that. The more we know the safest prevention is vaccination. And since we're requiring all of our staff to be vaccinated and or get testing. So we've upped that game to assure that your children are in front of people and staff who are safe and able to teach them, and keep the environment safe. So we're excited about all we're doing. Continue to watch our website. We did put up on the website a nice little tour video for parents to look at that just demonstrated how to take the self-test, and that was provided to us by the Westchester Department of Health. So that's on our website, as well as a link for parents that includes instructions on how to do it. So the website is another area, as Trustee Mayers was talking about, where we're continuing to improve that. We're working on that as well. We know there are some things we do need to correct. So we're just want you to know we're aware, we're being transparent about it. We are working on those things slowly. We ask that you continue to work with us. If you have concerns, please bring those to me, email me, and I know I'll hear from the president. And as much as possible, we want to make sure we're responsive and get back to parents in a very timely fashion. So I thank you for this time.
Thank you so much, Dr. Iverson. And I just want to ask if there's any trustees that have any questions about testing. Yes.
Not in reference to testing, but in reference to marketing and publicizing the testing. Are we doing phone blasts? Are we having flyers made? I know we have the email.
All
But-
of those above. We've done, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
We've done email blasts, we've done, of course, I mentioned the website. What were the other things Ivy Laser did? We did everything we could to get the word out.
It also went out via text message.
So, okay, so, did you say you did the phone blast too? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Right, the phone blast, text message. And are we going to continue to do it so more people will know, or we're going to cut it off at a certain time?
No, it is ongoing, but that's certainly something I can speak to Laser and just continue to keep that running.
Yeah, maybe every once in a while, because,
Yes.
people just forget to go to their email, they forget to do.
Mhm.
All right, that's all.
Are there any other trustees with any comments or questions or anything? I just want to add, Dr. Iverson, if possible, if we could, I guess, get a little bit more communication around the benefits of a parent opting in to have their student tested and how that could be helpful to reduce, whether it be numbers in the school or to reduce quarantines or to catch, as you said, catch cases early, because that may be helpful in having parents opt in. I did hear you say we had 289 fully vaccinated staff members, so that's teachers and staff, so not necessarily the teachers in the school. And about how many staff do we have?
We have about approximately 430.
Okay, great, thank you. So that's 289 of about 430 staff. Thank you. Okay, any other questions? No, we're going to move on in the agenda. The next item on the agenda is B5, approval of agenda items. Before we go there, I do have to make a statement. There are a few amendments this evening. Specifically, instructional personnel item C1 is amended to reflect the correct spelling of Miss Lindsay Picon. It's Lindsay, not Lidsay. Board action item is amended to reflect that revised minutes are presented, and the title of section G, as in George, is amended to read business items. So those are the amendments. And can I have a motion for section C, instructional personnel items, please?
I move that we approve the instructional personnel items presented to the board for approval this evening as amended.
I second.
It's been properly moved and second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you. Can I have a motion to approve section D, non-instructional personnel items?
I move that we approve the non-instructional personnel items presented to the board for approval this evening.
I second.
It's been properly moved and second. Are there any discussions? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Can I get a motion to approve section C, board action items?
E.
Excuse me, section E,
And you have to
board
read it.
action items.
You have to read.
I move that we approve the board action items presented to the board for approval this evening as amended.
Second.
It's been properly moved and second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you. Section F, finance items. Can I
I
get a
move
motion?
that we, go ahead.
No, can I get a motion?
I move that we approve the finance items presented to the board for approval this evening.
I second.
It's been properly moved and second. Are there any discussions? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Section G, business items. Can I get a motion, please?
I move that we approve the business items presented to the board for approval this evening.
I second.
It's been properly moved and second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you. Let's move on to Section H, pupil personnel services items.
I move that we approve the pupil personnel services items presented to the board for approval this evening.
I second.
It's been properly moved and second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carried. Thank you very much. And before we go to our closing items, there are still some executive session content that we did not get to address. So is it your pleasure, trustees, to go back into executive session to discuss the employment history of particular persons being, not being considered for board action, but the performance and employment history? Yes, trustee Perneda.
Can I make a suggestion for flow of the current meeting? Why don't we just cover new business and then afterwards go into exec? That way, if the public wants to hear anything in new business, they're here to hear it now.
Great
I
idea.
agree.
So we're going to continue on with our closing items of new business, and before we adjourn, maybe there'll be a motion for executive session. Thank you, trustee Pineda. Okay, so we're going to open with, or move on with closing items number I. Number 1, new business. I see trustee Dragic's hand.
Yeah, so the new business item that I wanted to discuss with the trustees this evening can either involve the whole board, or it can go through the Education and Wellness Committee. And we touched a little bit on the topic earlier, but it has to do with our guidance department. And I would like to ask Dr. Iverson and Macaluso to organize a presentation for us by the guidance department to give us not just an overview, but actually a more in-depth view of what they are doing with our students, and in particular, I mean, I know that they have the SCL component, and then they also have kind of the college application component. And I guess my particular focus was really, I mean, I would like to hear about both. I had more questions actually about the college application process, because I've been hearing about it recently. So I would like to hear actually when they start talking to kids about college, if they have a particular process, if there's actually a schedule that they follow, a schedule of meetings with students, a schedule of meetings with students and parents, and you know, how they work with the children in terms of the application process, the college, the choice of colleges that the kids apply to. And I'd also actually like to know why, as a district, we don't appear to be using Naviance. And if we're not, are we using another tool of that sort? So for those of you who don't know what this is, you can Google Naviance. There are reams of pages that come up. But it's basically, I'm just going to read this actually off of my screen. It's a career readiness software that partners with high schools and other K-12 institutions to provide students with college planning and career assessment tools. I can tell you that it is a phenomenal tool, and it seems that pretty much all the districts around us in Westchester use it, that the guidance departments use it to basically help themselves and also the kids figure out not just which college they can get into, but also what their aims should be before before 12th grade, basically, to figure out which classes they should be taking, what scores they should be shooting for when it comes to standardized tests. So I'd just like to hear from our guidance department why we don't have this tool, if we have another tool, whether we should get this tool, and also everything else that goes around the college application process, as well as SEL. So.
Okay, I saw, yes, Trustee Washington.
So I just have a question. I thought we were using that software. Did that go away?
Apparently it
I
went away.
think it did go away, Trustee
Oh,
Warner.
it did go
Do you
away.
remember?
Oh.
Do you remember that, Trustee? I'm turning to Trustee Warner because I know we were there.
No, I remember the heyday of Naviance. I remember that we were using it. I don't know what has happened during the COVID time and whether things have changed in the last couple of years.
Yeah,
You know anything?
I feel like we don't use it. I don't know if Trustee
Oh,
Valen, you might know.
okay.
I only turn to you because I know your son is older than mine. Whether or not we use.
We are currently not using Naviance, no, and I think it's been a few years, if I'm not mistaken, but I don't work here.
Right.
Yes, we don't work here, we're just parents. Okay, so, so yes, Trustee Washington, Dr. Iverson just turned to me and said she will check into it.
Okay, all right.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone else have any comment about, yes?
Sure, I would support that request, and I have something completely different to talk about.
Okay, great. Trustee Washington, is this for?
I'm going to just talk about what Trustee Dragic was talking about, but I think we need to go a little bit deeper with this presentation. There should be one aspect about the college application, but from a district perspective, we need a presentation for us and our community and our parents on what our social emotional learning plan is in every single school, what's being implemented, what are the goals, and how are the students truly having that experience during every single day that they walk into those schools. SEL should not just be an activity, it should be a culture. So I think along with that presentation, it might not have to be the same night, but throughout the whole entire district, from our social workers to our psychologists to our guidance counselors to whomsoever we have deemed social emotional part of our plan, and our building leaders, please present to us how our students are being impacted by our social emotional learning plan.
So let me just address a little bit of that now. We have monthly presentations scheduled for our principals on the agenda. So I know next month, Ivy can probably tell you, we have a principal or school a month. And I provided all of the principals sort of a template so that they all know kinds of things to cover, so that the Board of Trustees hears that information at every building, and SEL is part of that. So they will be, you'll get a little bit, my point is, before the deeper one from the guidance department, but you will, from every month, you will hear from the principal's presentation how they're approaching SEL this year. Now, if you remember, we all had training in it in the fall. Every principal had a charge to submit to me their plan for how they're rolling out SEL in their buildings. As a district, we know we don't have a systemic program. We are looking into one. Cost is very high there. So but we do have SEL in place, but we do need to improve it at a larger level. So that is on our radar to do. But please know that our students are connecting and getting some support every day in their buildings from the plans that every school has put in place to assure that if we're coming in from COVID, that their emotional needs are addressed and that we're in tune to it and that we're showing that kind of extra care as they transition. But I agree with the Board of Trustees. We do need a broader presentation. I'm looking forward to that, and we will have that ready for you on the board agenda.
Thank you, Dr. Iverson. Trustee Pineda?
Just going back to Trustee Dragic's request, I support it as well. I would like to ask that it be a board-level presentation, not just specifically a committee. I think it'll make sense for all of us to hear it at the same time. Thank you.
Thank you. I will.
Okay, are there any other new business items? Yes, Trustee Thomas?
I believe Trustee Warner was first.
Oh, what,
I have something, but Trustee Warner was first.
I'm sorry, were you next?
Okay, if I can be next.
Okay.
So this is about the Smart School bond money and the security vestibule. And so basically, to review, the idea was that we would have a single point of entry with a security vestibule outside of this building. And the architects did everything needed to do, got everything ready and submitted to the state. And what is holding things up is that the Smart Schools Bond Approval Committee, which is under the governor's office, needs to meet. That is, smart school money has been out there for a while. Most school districts have already taken advantage of it. There are maybe 40 or so school districts left. So what we need is to get them to convene a meeting and batch approve our piece along with everybody else's. And to do that, there's not really a formal process. It has been suggested that one informal way might be to talk to Andrea Stewart-Cousins about it. She can then communicate with the governor's office. And I know that Dr. Iverson is planning to meet with Andrea Stewart-Cousins. So I'm wondering if it is the will of the board to have her go ahead and add that to her list to try and perhaps encourage the Smart Schools Bond Approval Committee to convene, if that's possible. How do other people on the board feel about that? Is that acceptable?
Yes, I'm fine with that. Yes? I see Ms. Raymond.
There's further update to that. We have heard from facilities planning. There was a series of questions that our architects answered. We had to send a letter today confirming some of those items, which I typed per BBS's recommendation, had Dr. Iverson sign. It went back to facilities planning. So we are through that process, and we should get final approval shortly.
Great, thank you. So
So then that's even better. Okay,
Right.
so if NYSED is done with it, then the only thing needs to happen is we need to be able to get the money released. So,
And Trustee Warner, you have to spend it before you can get it.
correct.
So, and Dr. Iverson and I spoke this morning about when we meet with Senator Cousins in November, that this is one of the items that we were going to discuss with.
Beautiful. We're good?
okay.
Thank you.
All right. And Trustee Thomas.
So I just wanted to quickly speak to something I emailed the fellow trustees about with regard to communication. This will come up in the communication and in the community engagement and communications meeting next week. I thought that it would be good if we started to do a series of videos so that while we're in executive session, we can do like some type of frequently asked questions, maybe have different ones from board members, from administration, and have it on loop so that we can inform, the community of what's going on. Maybe we can do like calendar items and things to that effect as well. And so I wanted to get some, the board, whether they had any additional ideas related to that, and just get everybody's thoughts.
Thank you, Trustee Thomas. Yes, Ms. Washington?
So I support that, Trustee Thomas. I guess we would just have to see if administration would use our media center, maybe to help with like flyers, or just like our homecoming information right there in their face. I like that idea a lot. Just how actually we would implement it and who would do the work.
Trustee Warner?
I would add to that we have an upcoming vote on the Propositions 1 and 2, coming December 14th. We had said we were going to do something similar to the process we do building up to the budget. So that could be one of the items that's in rotation during the period of time that we're in closed session.
Definitely. So I hear upcoming events, like homecoming or anything that's upcoming after the meeting that's happening. And I also hear about our vote for December 14th, our special vote. So this would be a video, and Trustee Thomas and I talked about this wonderful idea. This would be a video that would play while we're in exec session. So for that hour and sometimes longer, instead of having the YouTube video just queuing there, the public would actually get information during that time. So that's an excellent idea. I think everyone here, I was seeing people nodding. I think everyone supports it. No one has any objection to it. Okay, great. Thank you for that suggestion. Are there any other new business items? Yes.
Yes, I just have a question, Dr. Macaluso. In reference, I know you just got here. So in reference to our special education department and our students and with the unfinished learning, I'm just wondering, do our self-contained classes receive AIS services? So that's academic intervention services for everyone else. But I'm not asking you to answer that tonight, but I would like for you to look into that. And then what is our academic recovery plan for the unfinished learning? So as you are, getting your feet wet, and I know you and Dr. Iverson already probably talked about it, but it would be nice to hear, our community to hear what we're doing as a school system in reference to the unfinished learning that took place during COVID. And if our special education students, 'cause I know we have the New York State Department of Education is working with our special education department. So I know that you will start to learn and kind of get the gist of what's going on there. But wondering about our self-contained classes and making sure that they are also receiving all of the resources that all students are receiving in the district. No one is being left out. And then I just have another question in reference, I guess this goes to Lisa, to our buses. Do we have after-school busing?
No, not at this time.
Okay, is that due to funds, lack of employees?
That's due to lack of drivers.
Okay. And are we going to receive like a credit for that? Because
We're not being billed for that.
we're not being billed for that. And do they have like a in time, like maybe by January 15th, we should be able to provide busing for our students?
If our driver situation improves, we would start it immediately.
And do we see any improvements?
I do know that I received an email, all business officials in Westchester, Rockland, and I believe Putnam received one email that had a list of people who were eligible to be drivers, and by the county that they live in, I passed that on to Royal Coach, and they were contacting those people to see if they were interested in driving for us and putting them through the process.
And I don't know if we can send out another message to parents, just kind of keeping them abreast of why we don't have after-school busing. It's just something that we just need to, we all know the nationwide shortage, there's shortages everywhere, but just so we're informed constantly, just what's going on. Because, we're so used to after-school busing here in Greenburgh, and a lot of us have to pick up our children after sports and different things like that. And if we want to have any after-school clubs or after-school academic recovery programs, we're going to have to pick up our children. So if we could just kind of keep
Definitely.
that in the forefront.
You
Thank
got
you.
it.
Can I just piggyback off of that as well for Dr. Iverson? When we do get alerts from, and after school is usually Williams Middle High School, and Bailey in the past has had after-school programs. I don't know if they're doing them now or not, but when the principals send out information about, as you said, clubs, or if the athletic director sends out information about sports, maybe that could just be a constant reminder at the end of their messaging that there is no after-school busing. Parents will be responsible for getting their children home from that. That way, if it's there every time they communicate, that would be helpful. Are there any other new business? Oh, yes, Mr. Warner?
One more thing. The curb cut situation on the Woodlands driveway for pickup. I think there may have been some movement on that. Would you like to give us the latest update, Lisa?
Sure. Dr. Iverson, Dr. Macaluso, Mike Falcone, and Frank Gunn and I met this morning to go over some strategies and what we possibly could do sooner than later. We decided that today we asked Steve Lewis and Mike Falcone went out and videotaped the arrival so we could see for ourselves what was exactly happening. Mike has spoken, so in the meantime, what he did was we had asked him to buy signs that say speed limit 5 miles per hour, and I only made one copy, but you can look at these and pass them along. And then what Mike did was he painted a white line from the beginning of that turn halfway down so that traffic going in both directions would be able to stay within their section. We've also spoken with our site contractor who won the bid for this school year, and he is available in 2 weeks. And we are going to take a section of that. We're not going to do the whole driveway. We're going to just take a section of that turn out to widen that, excuse me, one section. And then we'll have item 4 put down, and it'll stay like that until the spring because the blacktop plants will be closing soon, so we won't be able to blacktop that. And if that works, then it'll be determined if we want to widen the whole road, and that'll be done in the spring. It'll take a minimum of 1 week to get that work done. We involved Mike and obviously and Frank Gunn because of transportation, and that the minivans go down to that section. And Frank didn't see that there would be a problem with there's no big buses that go down there, just the minivans for drop-off and pickup at the end of the day. So those pictures show you what has been done just today, and Mr. Gentile Construction will come hopefully the beginning of November. We've scheduled him to come and take that section out. We will need to present to the board a increase in his bid, because as you know, the bid says not to exceed a certain dollar limit, and because he's been doing other work around campus, we will need to ask for an increase in his award. And Mike Falcone and I will be working to find the funds and reallocate them within his budget so that we can pay for this. The approximate cost just to do this work is between $15,000 and $20,000.
Okay, is any trustee Warner?
The 1520 is for the part now, and the larger amount is for in the spring?
Correct.
And what is that larger amount?
Excuse me?
What is that larger amount in the spring?
I asked for a range because, as you remember, when Mr. Gentile was doing work at ECP for the curbs and sidewalks, and at LF Jackson, once he took up the curbs and the sidewalk, they found more work that
Yes.
had to be done. So it's between 70 and 100,000.
Thank you.
Any other trustees have comments, questions? I did want to say I noticed the camera this morning and the monitoring when I went to drop my own children off. And then this afternoon, when I picked them up, I did notice the white line was there. It's very helpful. I did want to express a little bit of concern that it took so long to get that white line painted there, because that could have been done months ago, even last school year when this was brought up. So I just ask if we can look at simple solutions like drawing a white line, which took, like I said, it was not there in the morning, it was there in the afternoon. Very, very simple thing that we could have done in the future when it comes to facilities. If there's any mitigating factors like that that can be simple, cheap, fast, and that can help, that will be really, if we could just do things like that in the future, that would be really helpful, because it went on way too long. Yes, Trustee Valen?
Just two other things. I do want to point out that after school, the big buses do go back there for the sporting events. And it'd be great if we could figure out a way to get some sort of communication out to the students who use that back parking lot about the need for, safety and to stick to their proper side of the lane and not speed through there when it's high traffic. That would be great if we could reinforce that message to them somehow. Thank you.
You're referencing the student drivers, like the 16 and over. Thank you. Yes, Trustee Beneda?
I'd just like to ask, maybe in the spring, before we get to the point of deciding on whether we're going to widen the road or not, maybe we can consider having another video shot of what it looks like with the line, with the curb cut having been done, so that we can gauge if it's still necessary to expend that amount of money at that point in time or not. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Pineda.
Well, the trustee, mayors, there is work that needs to be done. The curbs definitely need to be done. Maybe not the widening of the road, but in the spring, we do need to repair the curbs.
And you're referencing the curbs in all the areas, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you for that update. Are there any other new items? I did have a couple of questions myself. So I'm a parent, and I've gone to other schools to visit for sporting events. And I noticed that some of the other schools do have COVID testing procedures for spectators. They do use, one of the trustees brought up the program, the Easy Screen program that we purchased, and it looks like we still have purchased it for this year. Am I accurate with that? No, we do not use that for like entry into school. I will say, last year we used it all year, and we still had many cases happen throughout the year, so I don't know how great it is, but I do know that when I go to other schools for sporting events, I mean, the last school I was in, they had a security guard literally come up to me and say, you need to check in, you need to screen. We actually had a sporting event yesterday where the athletic department needed to advise us parents that the only people that can come and watch have to be vaccinated. So that was also interesting, although all the players did not have to be vaccinated, the spectators did. So I don't know if there's any discussion around that when we have our games, and we're moving into the winter season, so all sports will be indoors. The doors are open, and anyone can come into our gyms and observe our games, vaccinated or not. So I just, wanted to bring that to everyone's attention. I don't know if, you're aware that everyone is kind of coming in, and we have closed our facilities for facilities use purposes, but the games are open and they're all indoors in the winter. So just wanted to make that aware for everyone as well. Okay, if there's no other new business or conversation, I would ask if you guys, with your pleasure, you want to go back into exec session or not?
I move that we adjourn to executive session to discuss the employment history of particular persons being considered for board action at a future meeting.
I second.
It's been properly moved in second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carried. We're now in exec session. It's 9:18 p.m. Thank you. Hey. Mr. Warner, Pineda, okay. Okay, we're back from executive session. It is 10:21 p.m., and we are done with our agenda. There are no additional new items. Can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting, please?
So moved.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None, any abstention? Motion carried. It's 10:21 p.m. Good night.
Good night, everyone.